This episode is brought to you by Timely Presence. Grief doesn't end at the graveside, but most support does. Timely Presence helps families and friends continue showing up throughout the first year of loss with personalized remembrance gifts, timed to the days that tend to hurt most. The first holidays, birthdays, anniversaries, and quiet milestones when grief can feel especially heavy. Because the people we love deserve to be remembered beyond the funeral. And the people grieving deserve to feel supported long after the first wave of care has faded. Visit thetimelypresence.com to learn more. Welcome to Highlight Your Healing. I'm your host, Shannon Roan. My guest today is Attorney Lynita, an estate planning attorney whose work sits at such a powerful intersection of love, legacy, and preparation. Through her work, she's seen firsthand how unprocessed grief and unmade decisions can leave families not only navigating loss, but also confusion, tension, and unanswered questions. Today, she's going to share how preparing legally is actually a healing act, how you can create clarity now so your loved ones inherit peace instead of confusion. Lynita, welcome to Highlight Your Healing.
Thank you so much for having me, Shannon. I'm really excited to be here.
So excited that you're here, and thank you so much for being here. I would just love for you to start by introducing yourself in your own words, sharing more about the work you do, and what led you into this space.
Absolutely. So, you know how when you think about planning anything big, it starts in your mind, and then your heart says, we absolutely have to do that because it's a good thing, right? But holistically, we may or may not take any action. And I think most of us can say that there is somebody in our lives that we love and that propels us to take an action that we don't want to do. And so it is my job, and I truly and 100% embrace it, to help people to protect the people that they love, to preserve the assets and the other resources that they have worked their lifetimes to build, and then to ensure that their legacies, when their families think about them when they have already transitioned, is full of peace, joy, and fulfillment. And so that is what I do as an estate planning attorney, Shannon. I help people to ensure that their legacy is continued on based on the preparation that they've done. And when we're talking about comparing the work that's needed to your entire lifetime, this is a microcosm. This is a little bit of time to make an investment to ensure that everything you worked for goes to who it's supposed to. How I got into this work. So I have a two-part story, and it's not long, but I think most people can relate. So I was raised in a family that believed in community service and giving back. And so as part of my work as president of the Georgia Association of Black Women Attorneys Foundation, I was charged with implementing a free wills project for those who were terminally ill and indigent. And so I learned how to prepare wills and facilitated the training for other Georgia attorneys to do so. And I did this for years. Never once crossed my mind to do it for myself because I was a young attorney. I was in my early 30s. I was in excellent shape. I mean, literally, I was running marathons. And I had in my mind that estate planning was related to those who were toward the end of life. So it wasn't exactly tied to being older, but really you knew that your time here had wound down to the end. Well, I got a rude awakening, and it was a 1-2 combination. So the first part was when my grandmother transitioned, my father's mother. She had 3 sons, my dad and his 2 brothers. She did not have a will. And it never crossed our minds that she needed one because she told all of us what she wanted. And just to give you an idea of the type of woman of standard she was the type of person, whatever she said went. And so her 3 sons, my father was the first Black orthodontist in the state of Florida. My uncle was the first Black civil engineer in the state of Florida. And my younger uncle retired from the Navy, a full bird colonel. So this was a woman of strict morals and values. And if she can raise her sons to do these things, then when she said something, then that's what she meant. But the one organization my grandmother could not boss, bully, or tell what to do is the government. And I mean, I'm just being honest. And so when it was time to care for her after she had her stroke, it was a nightmare because she had no paperwork in order as to who was in charge, how her care should be administered. No one expected her to live in a coma for 5 years. So her resources quickly dwindled down. And then even after she transitioned and she had amassed what was really a very respectable estate, we wound up having to sell her assets and to settle back taxes and to settle probate. And so I had that in my mind, but still, it was still for older people, you know? And then about 2 or 3 years later, I started feeling badly. Couldn't put my finger on it. Went to the doctors. I was going through all these tests. This went on for months. Spent hundreds of dollars a month in copays with all these tests trying to figure out what's going on. And so went to the last test. I didn't know it was last though. Wait for a dye test, see what was going on. The tech comes from around the corner. I'm thinking he's about to give me the results that say, nothing's wrong with you. We can't find anything like everybody else had for the past 5 months. No, they were admission papers to the emergency room. He said to me, you need to get your affairs in order. Did you drive here? Yes, I did. Okay, well, you can't drive over across the street to the ER. You need to call somebody to come and get your car. These are papers. They're expecting you. Your surgery is scheduled at 5 o'clock. Shannon, it was 3. It
Oh
was
my
3
goodness.
p.m. on Friday before Memorial Day, May 2013. My child had not yet turned 6, but she was going to be 6 in 2 months. So I just say she was 6. No plan for her. She was at school. And the first thing that came to me was terror for her. I had nothing in place for her. My husband was out of town. My mother was still working at the time. So I was scrambling. Called a girlfriend to go get my daughter, called my husband. He comes on, but it took him a few hours to get in. He wasn't back by the time I had to go into surgery. And they said that I had a bowel obstruction and they had to go in immediately because if it ruptured, that was going to be the end of me.
Right.
And I said to myself, God, if you bring me out of this, I promise that I will get my documents in order. I will get right, Shannon. That's exactly what I
That's
said.
it.
I will get it right. And so I came through it and I did. I've got my documents together, made sure my daughter was good. And when people ask me, where I was, because it took me months to get better, I explained it to them and to the person. They all were like, well, that's me too. I haven't done anything either. And we generally hang around people in our same age group, right? So you're talking about a bunch of 30-year-olds who have kids and have no provisions whatsoever. So I did plans for my family, of course, and some of my close friends. And then I was still doing the volunteer. And then God was like, no, this is what you're supposed to do. And I was like, oh, okay. So I started doing the training, going out and speaking to people, 100% focus on the education piece because I understand that this is an investment. And I would rather, even if you could not afford to hire an attorney right now, I would rather you have something in place that may not be exactly what it needs to be than to have absolutely nothing like I did when I went down. And so that is my mission. That is my calling. This is what I do. And as you can tell, I'm very, very passionate about it because it is very personal to me.
Well, thank you for all that you're doing and for educating us. Because to your point, you were younger, and most people think that a will that's for older people, right? I don't need one right now. So why do you think so many people avoid these conversations while they're alive? Because that's not the first thing we think about.
Well, The main problem is we think about it from the perspective of what happens when I die and what
Mhm.
happens to me and my stuff. But we have to reframe that to how do I best care for the people that I love, the people that I am here to serve and to care for. And so when I put those parameters around it and we look at it from that perspective, then people say, oh, right, exactly. Because remember, the first thing that came to my mind when that tech handed me those admission papers was my daughter. I wasn't thinking about my house. I wasn't thinking about my business and my clients that would be left hanging. And it's not to say they weren't important because I eventually did get there, right? But the first thing I thought about was the person that I'm living for, who depends on me 100% because she was 6. She was a baby. And so when I talk to people from that perspective, then it clicks. Now, the second reason we don't think about it is because of the name. When we hear estate planning, our eyes glaze over. You know, I mean, that is truly not for us. That is not for the young and hip and beautiful and fly. You know, that's for the old, the
Right.
stodgy. That is for those people who have houses on the hill. And I tell people, I'm just like, first of all, no, that's for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, you have more than you think. I sat down with a client this weekend and I enumerated everything that she has right now, plus what she will inherit because she's an only child of 2 parents who divorced long ago. And when we started adding up the value of the real estate, because it's both her parents' homes, her house, and from various heirlooms, it was 1.2 mil.
Wow.
Right. And she was just like, what? Because of course, she goes to work like we do. And she's just like, if I had known that, I would have cussed out my boss long ago. I'm like, no, girl, you still got good work now.
Slow down now. No, not yet. Not yet.
Yes, not yet. But you have kids. And so we need to set this up so that the trust has the house. And we need to
Mm-hmm.
set this up so we have a long lifetime asset protection trust so that if something happens to your children to you before your children hit adult age and you determine what that is, 18, 21, 25, 35, that their inheritance is protected from their immaturity, but also from predators who target people who have resources. We need to set up guardianships and conservatorships over their person. So if something happens to you, that someone that they are familiar with and love, respect, admire, trust has their care and not somebody that the government decides, possibly a foster
Mm-hmm.
parent, wonderful people, but still no one that your kids know. And you're hoping and praying that they are good stewards over money and resources, but you don't know. And so why not just take the time right now and invest right now and do the work right now where you have a 100% say in these things and how to
Mm-hmm.
protect the people that you love.
So you describe estate planning as an act of love. Can you
Yes.
explain what you mean by that term, act of love?
Absolutely. So love is an action word. I can tell you I love you, but if my actions are doing everything that is opposite of that, then you know that that's not love. And I think most of us have had the dating experience where we're crazy about this guy, we're crazy about this girl, and then they cheat on us or they talk crazy to us in the street, and we slowly but surely come to understand that that person does not love us, and they may not even understand what love means, right? And so we now have a base, a rubric now of what love looks like, what it feels like, and how we want to show up in it in the world. The first thing is we want our love to be an act of service. So we want to do, we want to take action. We want to ensure that the actions that we're taking are consistent with good stewardship and wisdom. The second thing is we want our love to look like safety and protection. So
Hmm.
when we can take an action that says that I've considered you as you are, your age, your mental capacity, where we live, the people in our circle who will be able to support you, should I not be here?
Hmm.
We also want to look at love from the perspective of preservation. We have worked our tookies off to amass the things that we have, our homes, our cars, our businesses, and the things that have been passed down to us. Jewelry from our grandmothers, recipes, classic cars, veterans flags. And we want to ensure that those things are taken care of, maintained in a manner that says that I care about these things and they have value, and to be able to hand them off in a responsible and loving way. And then last, we want our love to look like and feel like peace. So we don't want drama. We don't want foolishness. We don't want to have people fighting when it's all said and done. No, everything is laid out. Now, if you decide to do something different once I am gone, that's fine. But what I handed you was something that was clean, pristine, ready, and in good order. I didn't hand off a mess. I didn't put you in a position that had you fighting with people because I love you and I don't want that for you.
Absolutely. And you named off some stuff that, I would have never even thought of. Recipes, right? Uh,
Yeah.
what what are some of the most important documents or decisions that people should start thinking about now?
Yeah. So if you have property, so that's tangible, like a home, classic cars like we were talking about, your regular vehicle, you have furniture, you have jewelry. For those of you who moved from the north to the south or still live in the north, you have you have really cool coat collections like furs and things like that. Some of you are sneakerheads. Some of you are really into jewelry and you have a collection. Some of you are historians. You have all of the family records. Some of you are veterans, children and grandchildren of veterans. These things need to be transferred into the trust. The second thing is you're going to need a will. Even if you have a trust, you will need a will. If you have a trust, the will is called the pour over will. So anything that was not transferred into the trust is provided for in the will. If you do not have a trust, then you absolutely will have the will. The will will have all the things that I've mentioned, plus some. It will also provide for how you would like to be buried or cremated, what you want to happen with your remains, how you want your celebration of life, your funeral to go. You also want a list that's called a personal memorandum of items that you don't want necessarily enumerated or listed, but that are really important. For instance, my husband and I both belong to Black Greek letter organizations. And for both of us, our organizations are very specific about how our items should be discarded once we transition. And so we
Hmm.
have listed how and who should get those things. And if none of those people survive us, which is highly unlikely, but if they happen, then they should go back to the national offices for our organizations. Those things need to be specified. The next thing we have when we have children, we have guardianship papers and conservatorship papers. The difference. The
Hmm.
guardianship is authority over your child's person. So where they live, where they go to school, the doctors that they go to, anything of that nature that has to do with the care and maintenance of the child. Then we have the conservatorship. That document governs who is over the child's assets. So that's money, so investments, life insurance, bank accounts, anything to do with the payment of the rental or the mortgage of the place that they live, the payment of the clothes that they buy, the payment of the doctors that they visit, anything, or the activities that they're involved in, sports, arts, whatever it is. For many people, the conservator and the guardian are the same person. But let's say that there is somebody in your life who is amazing with kids. Your child loves them, they love the child, but they're not good with money. So that person
Mm-hmm.
would be the best person to also be the conservator. So you would appoint someone else to be the conservator, somebody who is very responsible with their finances, would not commingle their assets or take your child's money and put it with their money and spend it in a reckless way. And maybe that person loves your kid, but would not be the best person to have them living with them day to day. And so we have to really specify that. And we specify a lot of times why we do that. And we can put that in a separate letter so that there's a challenge that comes up later as to why you said this person as opposed to another, that the court can have that document from you. We also want to have what's called an advance directive. Now, in some states, that is called a living will. In some states, it's
Mm-hmm.
called a medical power of attorney. But in all states, what it means is this is the person who is your agent, your medical agent, to make decisions should you not be able to make them for yourself. So if you need to go under anesthesia, you are unconscious in a coma, what should happen? This document spells it out so that there's no guessing. And if there is something extraordinary that happens that was not provided for, your agent and your health care provider, your health team, can work together and see exactly what was in your mind so they know what to do
Mm-hmm.
next. You also want a financial power of attorney. This can be as broad or as limited as you desire. You can put someone in charge of everything that you own, or in charge of just one thing, or in charge for a specific period of time, or forever. You can set it to start and stop. But if you do a durable financial power of attorney, it normally starts on the day it's signed and it does not expire until the time you pass away. And it normally covers a transaction even after you die until that transaction or that task is completed, which is really good. You want all of these things. So you want the trust,
Mm-hmm.
will, the advance directive, the power of attorney, and if you have children, both conservatorship as well as guardianship papers. Now, some other things that you may want to consider as we all are getting really into our roots, where we came from, and
Mm-hmm.
wanted to know more about grandparents. If you have documents related to your searches, you want to digitize them and you want to ensure that that information is also included in your paperwork so that people can get to them. So these are just some of the things that you really want to take into consideration when we're talking about, I'm going to call it life and legacy planning or love planning, as opposed to estate planning so your eyes don't glaze over, okay?
How does one go about finding an estate planner?
So it is a couple of things. So it's estate planning attorney, and you can do a Google search. You can go to the state bar of your state. You can look at different organizations that have estate planning societies. You can talk to people in your community because someone has had their documents completed and hopefully they're happy with them, and you can ask for a referral. It is very easy. Now, I will caution you. I know that there are websites out here that have templates. And if that's what you can afford right now, then absolutely, by all means, use the templates. But I need you to promise me that as soon as you are in a position where you can afford to hire an attorney to do the work that we have discussed, that you'll do it. Why? Those templates, that website has no fiduciary duty to you to ensure that it is correct, that it is up to date with the laws, because there are changes. I'll give you an example. I did a Google search. I do them regularly to see what is available out there for free. And one of the documents referenced common law marriage for Georgia. And unless your marriage is a common law marriage was vested. I mean, complete. So y'all had lived together and acted as a married couple and done all the married couple things for 10 years up to 1999, like it was done, then you are not common law. Not in this state. We do not recognize
Wow.
that anymore. And yet there's still, yeah. So unless you were common law before J1, 1999, there is no common law. Y'all just live together. As the old folks used to say, y'all just shacking. You just shacking. And there's no
Yep.
judgment here. I just want you to know what your rights and privileges are, which are donut, zero.
Mm.
Yeah. So that's another
So much
reason.
valuable information.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I am so glad. But these are just the things where I'm passionate about it. And I just want everybody to win. So if you're in a position in your life where you really have no one, I need you to get out and I need you to expand your circle so that you can get around good people. Because that's indicative of another pain point in your life that must be addressed. It must be addressed.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And if you can leave our listeners with one reminder of why these conversations matter, what would you want them to remember?
I want you to remember that there are people you love and who love you and who are counting on you to make good decisions. And so that's what we're moving for. That's why we're acting. We are acting in love.
Lynita, thank you again. Thank you so much for this conversation, for the wisdom, and for the work that you're doing to help families experience more clarity and peace during some of life's hardest moments. Can you share with our listeners where they can connect with you and learn more about the amazing work that you're doing?
Absolutely. I keep it simple, Shannon. So come to my website, which is getyourwillandtrustdone.com. Again, that's getyourwillandtrustdone.com. And you can follow me on all social media. It's the same. It's my name, Lynita, Lynita, Mitchell-Blackwell.
Thank you so much. All of our information will be in the show notes. And if this episode resonated with you, do me a favor, share it. Send it to a friend, a family member, somebody in your circle who needs to hear that healing and purpose are still possible for them. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode, because trust me, we have more incredible guests and conversations coming your way. And if you haven't already, like and leave us a review. It helps more women find this show and join this community. And until next time, keep highlighting your healing.